Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Does Brian McKnight ever cross your mind? Anytime? Do you ever wake up reaching out for 90s R&B? I miss you. 90s R&B. I think that's what America needs now, is a little TLC, a little, 90s R&B, a renaissance of rhythm and blues music, of great music that we all need. We've had a rough couple of years as Americans. Don't we deserve a little bit of 90s R&B? I tell you what America needs. America needs, because we are the Americans. We are Destiny's children. All right? We are what America needs. So if you know any sisters with voices, tell them to start putting some tracks down. I'm telling you, we need good 90s R&B again. We deserve it as Americans. We deserve it. We deserve, as Americans, Toni Braxton crying in her underwear. We need Toni Braxton singing sad songs in the shower. We need Toni Braxton with no tattoos, no funny things on her eyes, no strange hairdo, in an elegant but sexy white dress, singing with an orchestra behind her. That's what America deserves. It's what America needs. Man, I miss 90s R&B. Toni Braxton, holy cow. I watched that video again today, and every man in America watched that video and said, "Oh, Toni, I'll make you forget that guy. I'll make you forget that guy." Even though the guy in the video looks like he's chiseled out of stone. he's a real beefcake, and I'm like, whew. All right, I understand. I understand the heartbreak, Toni Braxton. But, he clearly... You shouldn't date guys who ride motorcycles. You're going to crash it. If you own a motorcycle, you're going to crash it. Period. Anyway. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. You can follow me on social media over here, or you can become a patron. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. I'd /shockmonkeyradio. Holy cow. The record in my brain is skipping. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would very much appreciate it. Or you can send me money through Cash App using the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. Back in the groove, baby. Yeah, I'll tell you what we don't need. America doesn't need glam rock. It doesn't need bands like War. We don't need bands that are dressed up like superheroes. I think with all the transgender stuff that's going on these days, a group that came out like Poison would just really confuse everybody. All right, because let's be honest, the entire group Poison looked more like women than a lot of these transgenders do these days. I'm sorry. Go look at those glam bands and see how much better they pass than a lot of these transgenders did. All right, and America just doesn't need that right now. It'll confuse too many people. Well, but this is okay. It's like, no. Even though I like a lot of that music. But that's not what America needs. America needs that good old-fashioned soul of 90s R&B. All right, so we had Avery on last week, and that was fun. He's a good friend. We play role-playing games together. It's always good to find new nerdy friends. We've been hanging out for a while. I've been beating him, every single time we play, I've been game master, and I've put his character in the hospital. Every single time. He's so bad at fighting in our RPG game that it makes me wonder, I think I could beat him in a real fight. No ability to improvise. Doesn't know how to use his strengths or defend his weaknesses.
I don't know, man.
I'm not saying I want to fight Avery.
In real life,
but I think
has real chaotic energy. I feel like he could take anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like Avery might be able to take the Rock.
I would rather... You think Avery could take the Rock? Okay. I'm not saying I want to find out. But,
he always has the element of surprise.
Yeah, that's true. He'll make me laugh, I'm sure, in a fight. He'd be like Spider-Man. Spider-Man must be real tough to fight because he'll talk during a fight. And Spider-Man will insult you to your face in a funny way. It's it must be real hard. How many attacks per melee do you lose because you're laughing your ass off? Damn you, Joker. Yeah, we had Easter as well. I hope you had a happy Easter. I like how Gavin McInnes put it. It's a great story. We found a magic guy. You know, he freaked us out, so we killed him. And then he came back to life 3 days later, and he wasn't even mad. Still wanted to save all our souls. That Jesus guy was a real mensch. You know, and so I like spending time with my family, obviously, at Easter. And I was hanging out with my niece, and she got a trampoline. And so she was jumping on the trampoline. I asked, can you do a cartwheel? Can you do a flip? And she's like, no, I can't do a flip. Can't do a cartwheel. And I'm like, what? And I said, I'm going to do a cartwheel. And she's like, you are? I was like, yeah. And even my dad and her dad were like, are you really going to do a cartwheel? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a cartwheel. I took all the stuff out of my pockets, and I did a cartwheel. And they're all surprised. It was like,
woke up 3 days later.
No, I was fine. I am fine. All right? That's the point. All right? I don't know what it is. It's just like, I don't like pretend I'm broken all the time. You know, I know my body is atrophying. I know I'm losing a lot. You know, I'm jumped, I don't know, for about 15 seconds on the trampoline, and my heart started pounding too much. I had to get out. And so I understand that, but, you know, I'm still able to do physical things. And it was bothering me because I was asking my niece, why don't you try to do a cartwheel? And she's like, well, you know, my knees hurt. And I was like, what? You're 11 years old. You are in the best shape you will ever be in your life. If there's a time you should be able to do a cartwheel, it's now. You know, and I tried to communicate this to her, but she's like, you know, but my mom and my dad don't want to get hurt. And it's like, okay, I don't want to cross that line. All right. But I think at that age, you should be doing that kind of stuff. And you don't want to get caught up in this thing, especially at 11 years old, where you're like, oh, my knees hurt, my back hurts. You know, I'm just a big growing list of ailments. You know, I know I have a lot of things wrong with my body. I have neurofibromatosis. I don't let it slow me down. You know, I don't let anything that, you know, any kind of health thing slow me down. My high blood pressure. You know, I'm not worried about any of that. You know, I keep pushing on. You know, if you sit there and like dwell upon your ailments and the things that are going wrong in your body physiologically, you know, you're going to become too timid to do anything, including cartwheels. I can do a cartwheel. I did an 8-count bodybuilder because my niece said she thought she knew how to do it. She did know how to do it. Some sort of girl 8-count bodybuilder. Where it's like up to your elbows and then back. And like, what the hell is that? It's like, no, I showed you a correct 8-count bodybuilder. And everyone was impressed. It's like, wow, I can't believe you did that. Are you kidding me? Any given day in the Navy, in boot camp, you know, I'd be doing like 40 of those. People are like, in the Navy, is it mostly swimming? It's like, no. Anyway. Good Easter. But I had some complicated thoughts. You'll find that I had a lot of complicated thoughts over this past week. So I've come to a decision. I do not like VR gaming. And I'll tell you why. I like to drink beer when I'm playing video games. I also like to smoke if I can while playing video games. But when playing VR, it's difficult to play VR games and smoke and or drink. All right, excluding smoking, saying, okay, you can take breaks, madman, for a smoke break from the VR. Fine. But while I'm playing the game, I want to drink a beer. And so you got to put the beer on a table that's outside the boundaries of where your play area is or whatever. And you have to know where that is so you come back and get your beer unless you got to like, and you don't want to be flipping back and forth into the, what's that called? The enhanced mode or whatever, I forget what it's called. Anyway, so you got to know where it is. So you're playing the game, and you still got to keep a conscience like of where that beer is while you're playing the game. And then you're like, okay, I got a break. I could turn over here, and then you start walking toward the wall, and then you get a warning from the game, say, hey, you're going outside the play area, and then you reach out, and you're like, is that the beer? No, you knocked over the beer all over your friend's keyboard. And so it's just not conducive. it's not conducive. Or you forget where the beer is. You really walk into a wall trying to find your beer. It's like, I was hoping to get a beer. Instead, I bumped into a wall. And I don't know about you, but I would rather get a drink of beer than bump into a wall. So I do not like VR gaming. It's not for me. The other people can do it. It's like, the other people are out there like, well, if you could quit drinking for 10 minutes, maybe you could enjoy some VR. It's like, that's fair. That's fair of you to say. All right, so let's talk about this complicated subject of ladies. You like pretty women? I do. The reason why I thought about this was not only that a couple weeks ago I was talking about The Boys, the show The Boys, and how Elizabeth Shue started looking her age, and it made me thinking like more upon that subject. But it really came to a head the other day when I was looking on Twitter, and there's this picture. Somebody had a picture of Scarlett Johansson in a two-piece bathing suit, looking fine, right? And there's little circles. He's like circling a little punch around her belly. And on her butt, there's these little lines on her butt. It was like,
oh, those things that tell me I have a chance.
Yeah. These little insignificant flaws. There's guys out there that do this. They'll sit there and look at a picture of Scarlett Johansson in a two-piece, in a bikini, and say, circle stuff, that's disgusting. She's so mid because of that little punch. Are you out of your mind? Are you perpetually 16 years old in your head where you think that every girl has to be perfect and beautiful and like alabaster made out of porcelain? Are you out of your mind? You're insane. You're insane to say, I'm not going to get with Scarlett Johansson because of that little punch. Why? Who do you think you are to think that you deserve a perfect 10? And how many of you out there are there thinking that you deserve a perfect 10? You need to start getting realistic about women and how great they are. All right? There's way more to a woman than that perfect ab region. The perfect butt.
You should be thankful to TMZ for giving you those opportunities.
Anyway, I don't know what EK is on about. I don't know what he's talking about. But I started thinking about this, how a lot of you may actually be perpetually 16 years old, 17 years old in your head. And that's how you look at women. But here's the thing, is life is longer than you think. Life is longer than you know. And you're horny for a very, very long time. Okay? And so I want you to hear me out because I'm 47. I'm pushing 50. All right? And so it's reasonable for me to be attracted to women my age. And to be a little bit, not so picky. It's like you can't ask a 47-year-old girl my age. It's like, how come you don't have washboard abs and a perfect ass? You know? I don't.
Weird thing to
I know it's a very weird thing for someone like me to want. You know, so you got to start being reasonable, all right, about what you find attractive in women. All right. So I started wondering, the girls that I had crushes on growing up, where are they today? So I started looking around, searching some names that popped in my head in my youth. And so we're going to go from the youngest to the oldest. Ginger Spice. I love redheads. Everyone loves redheads. Jerry Halliwell. Look at that. Look at that. Still up there. Nines. Around 9. 8, 8.5. Okay? The age is showing. But she's still gorgeous. Still redheaded. Still piercing blue eyes. Still a beautiful woman. You know? And if she was out there in a picture in a two-piece bathing suit and some guy's circling, it's like, number one, consider her age and how good she looks for her age at, what was she, 51? 51 years old. You know, she's 4 years older than me. Definitely would not turn down Jerry Halliwell. Speaking of Toni Braxton is 56 years old. Look at her. Little more pudgy in the face, but that's cute. She's still cute. And the rest of her, I think that still looks pretty good too. Very attractive woman for 56. Halle Berry is 57. 57 years old, Halle Berry. And I tell you what, you can't turn down Catwoman, right? It's like Michelle Pfeiffer falls under that rule as well. You got Julie Newmar. You know, every chick who plays, it's a rule. If you're a fan of Batman, you cannot turn down anyone who's played Catwoman. I don't make the rules. It's the Batman fandom. I'm sorry. Halle Berry. Would. Now, Elizabeth Shue. Let's get into the people who are filing for retirement. Getting ready to, anyway. Elizabeth Shue. Back in the 80s. Obviously a 10. Still a good 8. 7.5, 8. And I wouldn't turn her down. She's 60 years old. Phoebe Cates is also 60. Now, I might need a couple drinks, but if I was dating Phoebe Cates, I'm sure she'd be buying, and so we'd probably have a lot of alcohol available. But definitely still would. Jennifer Jason Leigh? Maybe? Yeah, well, yeah. Definitely. How old is she? 62. Leah Thompson is also 62. You think she dyes that hair? Probably. She's got to dye it. But I still would.
But that's fine.
Yeah. I'm not real. See, that's the point. It's like life is long and women can be beautiful for a long time. That's the point. All right? That's why you want to marry one, because you get to see what they turn into. It's like
that's not the only reason.
No, obviously there's plenty of good reasons to marry a woman, but what I'm saying is you get to see them evolve to their final form. You know what I mean? Yeah, Leah Thompson, 62. Susanna Hoffs, Walk Like an Egyptian, the Bangle, is 65 years old. And probably the second hottest. I don't know. Because we still got a couple more. But for 65, that is incredibly hot. Would Susanna Hoffs. I know a lot of you are married, and if your husbands see this, I'm sorry. I'm a reasonable person. None of these women would be interested in me. Okay. Linda Carter, Wonder Woman herself, is 72. Look how bright her eyes are. Definitely dyes the hair. But her eyes are still bright. Her smile is still great. And I bet you that body's still okay. And I would. Linda Carter is 72. And I would. Now, I know what you're thinking, Madman. Is there a line? How far are we going? Well, I'll tell you what. Terry Garr is 79 years old. Linda Carter's the line. So if you could pull up that last pick. Yeah. We got to draw the line somewhere for now, because time is still working on us all. And who knows what may happen, who I may run into in the nursing home someday. So Terry Garr is the line. Go back to Linda Carter. I want to look at her instead. I want that to be the last picture. Can you do that? There we go. And so you got to understand is that women are beautiful for a long time, and you get to see them evolve into their final form. Yeah, I guess that's the end of that. I don't know. Did you find that weird?
No, I thought that was funny.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll clip it. He did all that hard work with the pictures. You know, you send your friend, say, hey, I'm going to send you a bunch of pictures of hot old ladies. And EK's like, why?
Is there another part of this story?
Anyway, let's review a movie real quick. Wow, we're eating up time. So I recently watched a movie called Archive, a 2020 movie. Sci-fi thriller. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie. Imagine you got into a car accident in this distant future, all right? Or pretty close future. Say you get in a car accident and your wife dies in the car accident, but the technology exists for you to download her consciousness into a machine. And the original form of that machine is it's like a big database, you know, like a server rack, you know, and it has a little phone on it, and you could pick up the phone and you could talk to the consciousness that's in the machine. And so this guy is an engineer, And so he's engineering machines and downloading and copying this consciousness into the machines. And so he's working on these designs of these robots, and he's got a couple of different robots, right? With like they have different capabilities, different levels of capability, and like tools and stuff that are on them. But he keeps copying his wife's consciousness into these machines. All right. And one of them has a very basic kind of attitude, just watches cartoons all day. The second one is almost a little needy, wants his attention a little bit. And it's like a progression of like how his robotics is building, because you see what he's trying to do with the final form is he's trying to make a robotic version of his wife and download the consciousness into her. That's what the goal is. And the second robot starts to realize what he's doing, and he finally completes this robot. As you can see in this picture, he's working on the most important part, that area of the robot. Very delicate work, so you got to take your time on that area. So he's building this robot. The second robot realizes he likes this robot more than he likes me. And this robot that has his wife's personality in it ends up like walking into a lake, destroying itself. Interesting. You wrap me up into the story. I'm emotionally invested. It's a sad story and a guy working to do something that's a little ethically ambiguous, you know? Trying to put his wife's consciousness into a machine. It was sad enough to invoke my emotional investment. It had a fantastic misdirection. You should, take my word on it, because I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't know if you've seen it. I highly recommend this movie. I give it 10 of 13 stars because some of the CGI scenes were like straight up Halo clips. They look fake and like a Halo game. Boy, I don't know what else to say more without trying to destroy the movie for you, but without destroying the movie for you. But I forget was it Hulu I watched this on? Do you know, or was it Prime? It was Prime Video. I think it was on Prime Video. So I know I usually do movies that are like available to watch free because I don't pay for anything other than censored.tv for entertainment, But this one, if you got Prime Video, check it out. I mean, it's a pretty good movie. 10 of 13 stars. Some of the CGI was a little, but very interesting sci-fi concept. All right. We got 7 minutes here, and I'm going to do return to a segment I used to do a couple times. I did a couple times before. But I'm going to do this thing called How to Man Up. We've done that before. How to Man Up. Guys, get off your phones. Quit playing with your phones. When I see a guy walking down the street with his head in his, like, looking at his phone here, I got a prop. Because I'm just as guilty of doing this myself. You're walking around, you got down on your phone, unaware of your surroundings, bullets can be flying over your head, mortars flying, you're still looking down at your phone. I got this idea when I was watching last week's show, and Avery and I were both looking down at our phones a couple times, which is talking. It's like, that is not good video. That's not interesting video. The guy's looking at their phone. And you know what? It's not interesting when men are walking down the street with their head in their phone, or worse, with VR goggles on. What are you thinking? Do not do that. You need to be aware of your surroundings. It's bad enough that men are in their cars looking at their phones, and you got to honk at the son of a bitch that's in front of you because he's looking at his phone when the light turns green. We all do it, and on down the line, everyone's got to honk at the person in front of them. Get off your phone. Honk, 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 honk. Get off your phone. And men, you need to lead the pack in this. It is your responsibility to be alert and responsible for everyone around you. And if your head is in your phone, if your head is in a VR goggles, you are not there to be able to protect your family, your friends, in case something crazy happens. I don't know how many videos you can watch on the internet where some tire comes off the highway, bounces into a restaurant dining room, goes out through a window, knocks a kid down in the parking lot, into the Dunkin' drive-thru, over this big Ford pickup truck, It's like that movie Rubber. Crazy stuff can happen all the time, And it's funny because as smartphones started coming out, they started having to extend the netting around Major League ballparks. You know why? because everyone's looking at their phone instead of paying attention to flying balls flying through the air. And that was the issue. It wasn't the fact that, there's more balls going in the stands. Is that the participants, the spectators in the stands, were looking at their phones and not paying attention to what's going on in the field. How to man up? Quit playing with your phones. We're all guilty of it. It's a fantastic tool. Fantastic for entertainment, fantastic for research and information and contact with your family and friends. I get it. But when you're walking down the street, when you're in public, you don't want to be oblivious. You need to have your situational awareness. You need to turn into Archer, all autistic and tactical. Because that's what men do. We are the protectors. And if you're distracted, bad things happen. It's your responsibility as men. My testosterone just went up. Let's get into the news worth knowing. All right. Every time, right click starts sticking. Former ESPN host says her Biden interview was entirely scripted by network execs. Former ESPN host Sage Steele revealed that her 2021 interview with President Biden was scripted by network executives. This was an interview 3 years ago. With an interview with Fox News Digital, Steele recalled that the structured nature of the pre-taped interview so much that her ESPN bosses handed her a script to go off of. She didn't put a preposition at the end of the sentence. Who wrote this? Joseph A. Wolfson? You should know better, sir. That was an interesting experience in its own right because it's so structured, Steele said. And I was told, you will have to say every word that we write out. You will not deviate from the script. And go. Many of the questions Steele said, asked Biden in the March of 21 interview pertained to sports leagues attempting to restore normalcy during the COVID pandemic and vaccine hesitancy among athletes and fans. Her interview made headlines at the time when Biden supported MLB's All-Star Game boycott of Atlanta following the passage of Georgia's election reform law. But everything Steele said to the president ultimately came from ESPN's C-suite. To the word, this is a quote, to the word, every single question was scripted, gone over dozens of times by many editors and executives. Absolutely. I was on script and I was told not to deviate, Steele told Fox News Digital. It was very much, this is what you'll ask, this is how you'll say it, no follow-ups, next. This went up to the fourth floor, as we said, where all the bosses, executives, blah, blah, decision makers. Yeah, so tell us something else that's not obvious. Yeah, tell us something else that we don't know. Biden's been seen with like a little card in his hands, telling him what to do. Like, you sit down, you talk to say, you say, first of all, it's not even that uncommon for any, president. If you could like get Obama on, you'll probably get questions you should ask, questions you stay away from. Like if you interview Hillary Clinton, it's like, don't bring up the emails, or we're not doing it at all. So I mean, it's been like that for a while. All right, it's nothing new. I'm not saying it's right, but it's kind of how the way things go. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily anything new, and I think that's how the Democrats have been able to keep this puppet in power for so long, is because you just send press releases. This is what you can ask. This is the script, So what else are you going to tell us that's not obvious? That, the president's not the president, and we have the first woman president, and that explains why everything's going to shit. The pullout in Afghanistan, this crazy transgender stuff. Seems like a woman's in control. Now you can tell me something obvious. Anyway, let's go on to the next story. Boring. All right, let's talk about Alfred E. Newman here. Pete Buttigieg rejects critics of EV failure, like people in the 2000s saying we could have landlines forever. I think we still have landlines, dude. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg rejected criticism of the Biden administration's push for America to embrace the future where electronic vehicles, or EVs, overtake internal combustion engines, comparing the dynamic to that of the landline phone loyalists at the dawn of the cellular age. Buttigieg denied such a push as premature, despite critics pointing to the cost of some green vehicles and the lack of technological proliferation to a realistic extent at the moment. When America Reports anchor Sandra Smith reported on cuts of the workforce at Ford's F-150 Lightning assembly plant in Dearborn, Michigan, where 1/3 of the workers will remain beginning this week, according to the Detroit Free Press, Buttigieg said purchases of EVs continue to increase on an annual basis. Quote, Tesla is facing more competition as GM and Ford and Stellantis and other competitive players start to make sure they get a piece of the EV market. Let's be clear that the automotive sector is moving towards EVs, and we can't pretend otherwise, he said in a wake of reported decreases in Tesla sales. Sometimes when these debates happen, I feel like it's the early 2000s, and I'm talking to some people who think we could just have landline phones forever. All right. We don't have to read any more of this guy. He should have resigned after East Palestine, Ohio. Now a ship ran into a bridge, and he still hasn't resigned. It's like, I don't know why anyone is listening to this person. Is it just because he's gay and paid somebody for their child? Is that why we're dealing with this guy? Is this why we're putting up with him? He's clearly a moron. He's incompetent at his job. Look at what's happening to our transportation under his watch. He should have been fired long ago. And when it comes to EVs, sorry, I'm not into it. Not going to do it. I want an internal combustion engine, because gas is easier to get, especially if something crazy happens. Gas will still be easier to get than electricity, than a power grid. If a war or, God forbid, something happens like that, a zombie uprising, power grid's probably going to be one of the first things to go. If nobody's maintaining the power, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And if you're trying to get people to switch from internal combustion engines to EVs, all you're doing is putting more strain on the energy infrastructure in this country. And you're not even doing your job when it comes to transportation. What do you think the power grids are going to do once everyone starts plugging their cars in daily? This is insane. Of course, electric vehicle technology should be pursued, and I'm glad that some people are buying them. Those who can afford it are financing that research. Us regular people who have to get on about our lives need internal combustion engines. And if I have to start learning mechanics in order to keep my internal combustion engine running, I will do it. Because I don't want to be like that scene in Idiocracy where they're running from the cops and the cops shut down their battery. All right? Because that's what they're going to do. That's the plan of trying to push everybody into EVs. If everybody's in an EV, it could be like that scene in Minority Report where they find out you're in which pod you're in and they get it to pull over. Now, I'm not saying I want to run from the cops. I just want to have autonomy of my vehicle and not have some government have the ability to push a button somewhere and I have no ability to travel. That's dystopian, nightmarish stuff to me. Fire that guy. All right, let's move on to something happier with Trump. All right, as everyone knows, the Trans Visibility Day fell on Easter this year, and all the conservatives like myself are mad that the White House is pushing this stuff, which is the Trans Visibility Day. But Trump says he vows to create a Christian Visibility Day following Biden's declaration of the Trans Visibility Day. So former President Trump vowed to create a Christian Visibility Day following President Biden's declaration of Transgender Day of Visibility, which happened to land on Easter Sunday this year. And what the hell is Biden thinking when he declared Easter Sunday to be a Trans Visibility Day? Trump asked of supporters during a campaign rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin on Tuesday. It says he asked his supporters. If he's asking a rhetorical question, do you suppose it's still asked or be told? I think he's still asked. Anyway. This is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Such total respect to Christians. The presumptive Republican nominee, he is the Republican nominee. What are you talking about? For president, promised that November 5th would be Christian Visibility Day if he's elected. The presumptive Republican nominee, And on November 5th, it's going to be called something else. It's going to be called Christian Visibility Day, Trump said to thunderous applause. Trump's comments came after President Biden celebrated Transgender Day of Visibility, which recognized March 31st as this year fell on Easter Sunday. Biden faced backlash after his annual day to honor transgender movement fell on Easter Sunday, one of the most important, holiest days for the Christians, as they celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Trump's National Press Secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, previously called the Trans Day of Visibility appalling and insulting. Who cares what she said? Anyway. It's a smack in the face to Christianity. That's what like all these people are. They're Bolsheviks and they're atheists and they're pagans. All right. That's what this is all about. I think it's funny that Trump says this. I hope he doesn't actually do it because the whole point is that you don't need a Christian Visibility Day. You don't need a Trans Visibility Day. You don't need any of that. Just let us have Easter. Don't mess with Easter. Don't mess with Christmas. We don't need that. But the joke is like November 5th will be Christian Visibility Day because he wants all the Christians to, and they should, go out and vote for Donald Trump. Every single Christian in this country should. Because the world's getting crazy. They're like the White House treating trans people more important than the Christians that built this country. The Christian ideology that built this country. And that's the whole point. They want to spit in the face of Christianity, of Christians. It's just like those nuns who with the baseball game. I forget what they're called. The Sisters of Perpetual Hedonism or something like that. It's the mockery is the point. They're mad at God for some reason. There's lots of reasons to hate God, I suppose. But I mean, you need to get over it. That's the problem. It's like so many people need to get over shit. All right. Moving right along to this next story. Texas University clears DIE offices, lays off employees in light of new state law. University of Texas at Austin laid off dozens of employees who worked in their diversity, inclusion, and equity department. I call it DIE because that's how you kill things. In order to comply with the new state law, according to a report. University of Texas at Austin President Jay Hartzell announced Tuesday the school's division of campus community engagement is being dissolved and its programs and funding transferred to other divisions. The announcement comes as the university works to comply with a new Texas law that comes into effect January 1st, which effectively dissolves DIE institutions at public colleges and universities throughout the state. The Austin American Statesman reported that a person with knowledge about these situations said 60 positions related to that work, the DIE work, were eliminated at UT Austin. The law mandates that all the governing boards of public colleges and universities ensure that the institutions prohibit the establishment and maintenance of the DIE offices and the issue of DIE statements. So is that what all they did? They just wrote DIE statements? In addition to the hiring practices and training that are no longer able to use those DIE statements. I recognize the strong feelings surrounded about this SB 17. From the beginning will shape many Longhorns' perception of these measures, Hartzell wrote in reference to the new law. It's also important that this continues to be a welcoming, supportive community for all. In the message, Hartzell said student-facing jobs would remain throughout the rest of the semester, that laid-off employees could apply for other positions at the university. That's fair. Firing came after Senator Brandon Creighton outlined expectations on how universities will comply with the law. He wrote a letter expressing the serious nature of the bill, saying that the measure mandates a fundamental shift in the operation of our higher education institutions. He added that universities are expected to facilitate a merit-based environment. Thank you. Is this Sanity I see returning?
Might be.
Thank God. Sanity returning. And that's a great thing. I'm glad Texas is leading the way. Texas always been a leader. And I'm very happy that people are starting to wake up to this. I hope that sanity starts coming back into this country. I hope and pray that happens. It's hard to hold on to that shred of hope, and still be like, I hope I don't have to move to Texas, because we'd have to move to Fredericksburg, Texas. We'd have to. Could be FXBG Public Radio. I don't know. But I mean, it's good to see this happening because it's so racist. It's so disgustingly racist to sit there and say, well, we don't have enough black people in this job. We need to have, I saw that Indian people exist, you know, from India, those people. I'm not trying to be offensive. See what I mean? You get so wrapped up in that nonsense, you know? And it's like, you're so wrapped up in it, you can't even create good R&B anymore. It's in the 90s, when that was good R&B, it's like everyone loved it. You didn't care if it was black music or white music. There's no such thing as that. It's just good music, and we could all appreciate it. And we weren't all caught up in this, my ancestors were hurt. I've been, me. I want to complain. Grow up. Forgive. Move on. Bust out. I'm in a weird mood today, I guess. Okay, so now I should be worried. Texas mom gets warrant issued for her arrest over late library books. Just bonkers. Mother of 5 in Texas recently found herself in hot water after learning that she could go to jail over library books that her county claims was never returned. Kaylee Morgan took out books on Vincent van Gogh from Navasota Public Library in Grimes County, Texas on March 23rd. Texas is getting serious. Don't mess with Texas. In March of 2023, she told Fox News Digital that she did actually return all the books that she borrowed, but that one was too big to fit in the returns box. That's no excuse, lady. You can go inside. You can go inside and hand it to them, can you not? I mean, you can still do that at libraries, right? You can hand it to a person, I hope. It's been a long while since I've gone to the library because, internet. Court documents obtained by Fox News Digital show that the combined value of the two books was $60, but Morgan was slapped with a bill of $569.50, mostly fines and court fees, which was also charged with a city ordinance violation. Warrant is active for your arrest, an alarming document read. Act now and avoid going to jail. But Morgan was unaware of the months-old documents existed until recently. The mom said that the issues began when she went through the innocent task of renewing her driver's license last week. So I go in and the DMV tells me that they could not renew my license because I have a warrant out for my arrest, and I audibly laugh. She said in a video posted on Facebook. And I'm shocked because I haven't been pulled over. I haven't got any tickets. It just doesn't make sense. I mostly stay home. I homeschool my kids, so it didn't compute. She called the local court to see what the trouble was, and they were told she had 2 past due library books. The stressed out mother then scheduled an appointment with the judge. It's so silly, she said. I have a warrant out for my arrest for past due library books. Okay, this is not fake. This is not made up, she said, bewildered. And then it gives the court documents. Look, I threw a cigarette butt out. It's starting to get crazy out there. They're like, I threw a cigarette butt out the window. I had to go to court. This lady checked out a library book. She has to go to court or might be arrested. You know why? Because if you arrest me or if you arrest this woman, it's not going to be all over the news, and the media is not going to take it and say, oh, look at this violence, this racist cops, Because the reason they're going after this little stuff is because they can't go after the big crimes. Because the big crimes may look bad. There may be big crimes where you arrest somebody and it looks exactly like you expect it to be, and it goes in cuffs and the cameras come and they're like, see, it's just more racism. And you keep doing that, we're not going to have any more good R&B. I cover these stories not because I have overdue library books. And that, stories like this catch my attention because of that. It's because, you need to be aware of the laws in your county. Because you could be just renewing your driver's license and realize you got a warrant out for your arrest. Anyway, one last story. Just to make you go, what?
This exists? Harvard apologizes for and removes creepy book binding made of human skin. Past failures. Harvard University announced Wednesday that it removed the human skin binding from a gruesome book in its library. Called the Necronomicon, the book called De Destinies de l'Âme was published in the 1880s by French author Arsène Houssaye. Its name means Destinies of the Soul. Why don't you lead with that in English? Destinies of the Soul in English. The university explained that the owner of the book, Dr. Ludovic Boland, bound the book with a deceased woman's skin. She died in a hospital that he worked in and did not consent to the binding. Boland was born in France, and there you go, 1839. The identity of the woman and the year she died is unknown. Harvard is currently researching more information about the patient and Boland, and pledges to give respectful disposition to the remains that seeks to restore dignity to the woman whose skin was used. Harvard Library had this book in its collection since 1934, a year after Boland died. This book had previously been made available to anybody who asked for it. Libraries. In the course of its review, the library noted several ways in which the stewardship practices failed to meet the level of ethical standards to which it subscribes. That's a nice way to say it. Another way you could say it is freaking creepy. They also said library lore suggests that decades ago students employed to page collections on Houghton stacks were hazed by being asked to retrieve the book without being told it included human remains. Harvard also acknowledged that it had previously used the book as sort of a novelty. Of course. In 2014, the following scientific analysis that confirmed the book was bound in human skin, the library published posts on the Houghton blog that utilized sensationalistic, morbid, and humorous tone that fueled similar international media coverage. The statement continued, yeah, that's going to happen. That's exactly what's happening now. I'm covering this story, and I'm making fun of it for how weird and creepy it is. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what happens. Why? This thing you said makes no sense. The sky is blue, the grass is green. That's profound. Harvard Library acknowledges the past failures for stewardship in the book that further objectified and compromised the dignity of human beings whose remains were used for its binding. The library added, "We apologize to those adversely affected by these actions." Look, if you're Harvard University and they're like, we need to get ahead of the criticism of this. Yeah, but we're Harvard. We can't just come out and say, my bad. You know, we have to say it in a way that sounds like it came from Harvard.
That is the...
Yeah, but that's the point. It's like it's Harvard University. You know, you want to pretend like it's... I remember I saw this video of like this chick was sitting there saying, like, I told these guys that they said they're from Harvard, and I was like, what's that? And they're like, you never heard of Harvard? And it's like she's just trolled these guys, like pretending like she never heard of Harvard. And they're starting getting mad. You know, because there's so much prestige wrapped up as everybody knows what Harvard is. And you know what? You're just a bunch of sick turds. You know, you're just a bunch of sick little turds, just like everyone else in this world. All right? All your education, all your fancy books, all your fancy schooling, and you're still like pulling John Wayne Gacy's. You know, make a book out of human skin. Think you're above it all? You're out of your mind. We are all down here in the mud together. Missing 90s R&B. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again to go over to Patreon. Patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate that very much. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Follow me on social media. Is it over here? Yeah. At Denaltsaw on Twitter. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. And at SLRobins13 on Instagram, where I post all my memes. Yeah, so this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman. I love you.